secret to a quality sofa is often found under the fabric, in the frame, the cushions, and the springs. Now, when shopping for a sofa, it's really important that you look at those three things before you make your purchase. So the key to a strong home is a good quality frame and foundation, and a sofa is really no different. When you're shopping for a new sofa, you want to make sure that your frame is built out of a hardwood such as maple or alder. Softer woods such as pine or Douglas fir are still good, but they are going to be softer, and so essentially when you put a frame together, you screw it or staple it or glue it, and you want to make sure that that wood is going to be able to hold up to however it is joined together and not going to pull apart so easy. So when you build a frame with a softer wood, just a little bit more chance for it to pull apart, and if you go to something such as an MDF or a particle board, it's going to be super easy for it to come apart and then of course not last as long. Another great thing that some manufacturers will do to their wood is they'll actually kiln dry the wood. And what kiln drying is it's basically a process to remove all of the moisture inside of the wood, which just means that it's not going to warp and it'll last longer and be more durable. The next thing we're going to talk about is the foam inside of your cushions of your sofa. Now, the whole point of a sofa is for it to be super comfortable. You want the foam inside of the cushions to hold up for all of those movie nights you're going to have or the Netflix marathons. Now, when you're shopping for a sofa and you look at the type of foam that's inside of the cushions, you want to make sure that's a higher density foam. Simply put, a higher density foam is going to be more durable and it's going to last longer, between about 8 to 10 years. And a lower density foam is going to be less durable and not last as long. When you squeeze a cushion together like this, or you sit on a cushion, it should have a very fast return rate, so it'll bounce back right away. Now, another nice option that some manufacturers do add into their cushions and into their foam is something called a Dacron Wrap. Now, if I open this cushion up here, this polyester fiber, this is actually wrapped around the foam inside of the cushion, and that's going to help prevent the foam from creeping and slipping, and it will also give your couch cushions a much puffier and softer look and feel. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is the suspension or the springs inside of your sofa. Now, similar to that of a car, the firmer and stronger suspension that you have, the less you will feel those bumps in the road or the potholes in our case. So a couch is really no different. Think about when your kids, they jump on the couch even though they're not supposed to, or you come home after a long day and you sort of plop on the couch. You want a good suspension there to absorb that shock. And of course, the more durable the wire that is used for the suspension, the longer it will last. Now, the suspension is actually found underneath the cushion in the bottom of the couch here. There are 4 different types of suspension that you can get. You have your most common, which is the pocket coil, and you'll actually find those a lot in mattresses. And it's just a coil of wire put all the way throughout the bottom of your sofa to absorb the shock. The next, and probably actually the most common type in mid-tiered sofas, are a sinuous spring or S-spring. And it is just a wire that goes like this, kind of like a snake all the way along. And then you also have a wire holding them all together. And again, that's because it's sort of spread out a little bit more. It's going to absorb that shock a little bit better. You can also find some sofas that have a webbing in them, which is kind of like a hammock or a basket weave, if you will, and it'll just be a fabric, or some manufacturers actually use a similar material to a seatbelt material, and it's just webbed together essentially, and that's going to be your suspension. And then the last type is an 8-way hand-tied spring. So an 8-way hand-tied spring is probably the best type of suspension you can get, and you're really only ever going to find that type of suspension in really high-end sofas. The reason being is the labor. And so somebody will actually go through and put the suspension in and then tie them all together with different types of string and wire and whatnot to really create a firm, stable base. So really, in terms of suspension, they're all pretty good, but I would definitely say that the 2 best ones are going to be your Sinuous Springs, because of course there's going to be a greater sort of base of suspension, or your 8-way hand-tied springs.